Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill, got another video for you today, and in this one we're taking a closer look at the Strategist Card, one of the most versatile artifacts that this game has released. In this one we're comparing the damages between the ranks, so between 80, 120, 160, and 200, in terms of what you can expect in terms of how many procs, what the damage will be, what you're missing out by not leveling to certain ranks. And we're doing this by comparing it on single target and AoE. There are certainly power sets and rotations that would benefit more from a strategy card, like say like a nature or something like a heavy dot based that would skew the results. And this one I chose to do munitions just because I can do the same rotation on AoE and single target and achieve similar results. So it's just heat vision, multi-net, pull on single target and the retractor on AoE, and then chain gun and just repeat. With this one, I'm using Transformation and Soul Amplifier at 200, and then basically just the Strategist card. So the only change in might, because Strategist card doesn't have any base might, so the only might that'll change is the 1, 2, 3, and 4% increases. And then I'm not using any allies that'll interfere with anything in terms of the critical chances. So let's dive into the results and look at another numbers video here. Okay, so taking a look at the breakdown of the numbers here, we have the log analyzer up. I'll kind of briefly go through everything and then discuss more in the summary, because this is just basically showing the numbers. I did 10 parses of 30 seconds or 300 seconds of DPSing on single target and AoE with the same rotation. So with this one, we have at rank 80, we have accounting for 3.8% of the damage on single target, which works out to about just over 1 million, and it hit 53 times. And that same rotation with the 80 on AoE, we had 184 hits, still accounting for about 7%, just under 8%, and 3.5 mil total. Once you move to 120, the difference is now we go from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. So essentially we're looking at close to double hits, which we're seeing. We went from, on single target, 53 hits, now we're at 93, and then AoE we're at 321. So it's 321 procs strategy card, accounting for 13.6% of the damage rotation. And then you see all the might figures here. So this is essentially just, even if you have the strategy card at 120, you're still accounting for essentially free damage at that point. Moving up to 160, now we have the double the proc chance. So we've got tactical now at 103. So some of the hits was 93 hits, 103 this time. So you're still gonna have lots of variances, but depending on your rotation with how dot heavy it is. And the tactical advantage still increases from the 13% now to 17.9. Now the main difference here, moving up to 200, this is the big jump here where it increases the potency. So you get a 30, not only you get the double proc chance, but you also get the 30% damage increase on the actual procs. So the proc stayed about the same, 129, 160 was 103, so not a huge jump there. 471 and 461, so we actually had 10 less hits. Same thing, it's all going to be depending on the crit rate, which that rotation just happened to be lower. So now, what does all that mean? So taking a look at the numbers here, between 80, we ended up around 1 million. We had an 800k increase from 80 to 120, and then not a huge jump between 120 and 160, because really all that does is the 160 has the double the proc chance, but it's still a proc chance. So on single target, since there's only one target, you're not taking advantage of that double proc chance. So you don't see that, you see a marginal increase. So that's why a lot of times you'll see Strategist card is not absolutely necessary on single target. It's more for precision, because they're going to have a lot more ticks with flurry shot, just with how precision works compared to might hits. Or might basically just has heat vision is a popular one, or finisher is going to have multi hits. And then even the jump from 160 to 200 was only an extra mil damage. And then taking a look at the AoE, this is where we'll see greater separation, because obviously Strategist card is geared more towards AoE. So we had about 3.5 mil, 184 hits on 80, and then double the one from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. We see that almost a double increase, which also translates to almost double the damage. Where you can see the average DPS pretty much stays the same until 200, because that's the 30% increase. So the average DPS stays the same throughout the artifact because the way might scale. So we'll look at it here as well. So as you can see here, the 80, the min max was about 7.7, 13k, 180k might. Even if I jump up to 160, which is another 3,500 might, the min to max is about the same. It's even less in some cases. That's because Strategist Card, I covered this years ago. Is it years ago? A couple years ago? Either way, Strategist Card, for whatever reason, the way Batuba designed it, it scales drastically higher for precision. So say, for example, if you're in like max 396 gear for Prec, no matter if you're max gear for Might, you're going to need probably gear from like the next episode that's not even out yet to be able to match what Prec can do this time around. Because it just, Prec scales anywhere from like 10 to 15% higher for Strategist Card. So that's why even the Might increases, you don't really notice it throughout the ranks, just because it takes so much more Might to scale higher. Unless you're looking at the 200 rank, and that's why the 200 rank is so important, is because you get the extra 30%. So you're helping yourself by that scaling, because your might only increase by about 1,000 or so, less than that, but you get the extra 30% in that damage. So that's why you move from 9 million to an extra 2 million, or the same, even less amount of hits. So you get 10 less procs of Strategist Card, and you're still getting well over 2.5 million extra damage because of that extra 200 rank. So as you can see here, the hits stay about the same in terms of like normal, the deviation between normal and critical hits at the same might. So what does this really tell you? Strategist Card is still completely viable at the lower ranks. Obviously you wanted to get to 200 because it's going to be doing the most for you. And that's why it can also, you can get away with using Strategist Card as a controller, a healer. I mean, a water healer works great with a Strategist Card. It's one of those artifacts like Eye of Gemini, Scrap the Soul Cloak that you can double for support roles if you're trying to save money. Like you're not expected to have a bunch of artifacts, but if you're going to level an artifact that's going to help for both roles, Strategist Card's one of those ones that can work out as well. Not so much for tanking, but you can get away with it, like for fire tanking. I've tried builds with it before. Obviously, it's not optimal, but it's one of the same thing. If you can only afford a few artifacts, then you want to make sure Strategist Card's one of them, just because of that. If we go back to this 200 art rotation, Tactical Advantage, 21% of the damage on AoE was just from Strategist Card procs. So the entire the time of the rotation stayed the same thing. It's still 300 seconds, 10 second, like 30 second parsers, but now it accounted for 21% compared to, if we're looking at 180 or 120, it accounted for 13%. So just wanted to share those here. I'll put the spreadsheet in the description. I know a lot of this is something that people are already aware of, but it's just if you're looking to justify leveling the strategy card, now you can kind of see what you can expect in terms of what you can see as you progress through the ranks in terms of damage. So take care, guys. We'll see you in the next video.